The park, of course, had a bunch of cool themed restaurants, one of them being a super cool One Piece restaurant. Did I mention I like One Piece? There also was a special Sanji one, but we didn't know you needed a reservation, so phooey. It was awesome though, I love One Piece. After a few hours of rides and being broiled alive, we decided to fully cool off by going on the Jurassic Park ride that's just giant splash mountain with dinosaurs. We cooked in line for probably a solid hour, and as soon as we were literally stepping foot inside the ride, it started pouring rain. Now that's just not fair. I don't even understand how that happened, but whatever. Also, we were able to have a Q&A session with the Pokemon card art director and 3 artists who actually draw art for the cards. That was super interesting, and I was so incredibly inspired by that discussion. But you know those Pokemon cards with the super cute clay art? That artist's name is Yuka Mori, and she was in that panel. I was so starstruck. Those are some of my favorite Pokemon cards. And not only that, but she hosted a little workshop for us where she gave us clay and taught us how to make little clay Magnemites like in this card here. Speaking of this card, she brought the actual original Magnemite for us to see. That was by far the coolest thing that I've ever gotten to be a part of. We got to meet a piece of genuine history. I felt like I was meeting the president. Also, here's me and Jacob's Magnemites that we made. It was funny, one of the people in our group asked how they chose which Pokemon to make cards for. A good question. And then followed it up with, I really like Mantike, but there's only 2 Mantike cards that exist. And the assistant pulled up a list of all the Pokemon Mantike cards that have ever been created, and sure enough, there were only 2. The director chuckled and was essentially like, yeah, sometimes Pokemon get lost in the cracks. We kinda just make cards of Pokemon I like. For example, my favorite Pokemon is Gengar. And you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. Don't judge us. We're anime and Nintendo-loving impulse buyers going to Japan. A game plan was needed. We were being responsible. 2 extra suitcases was definitely gonna be enough. Yep. Equipped with our extra luggage, we headed off to the airport. Pokemon straight up gave us business class seats. We didn't ask for them or anything. So when we boarded, we realized we had the seats where you could lay down. There even was some sort of seat divider that acted like a car window, so I could roll it down and bother Jacob whenever I wanted. I was starting to think there might be a chance I could actually be on the show. But eventually, the interviews came to a stop, and I have come to the conclusion they have moved on to better qualifying people. Most likely because I will admit I was a bit too honest during the interviews. They basically all just looked like this. What kind of a role do you think you would play in Squid Game as a contestant? I'd probably just be a follower. I don't like taking charge at all. How hard would you fight to win Squid Game? Not that hard. Have you watched the first season of Squid Game: The Challenge? No. Well, I watched the first 20 minutes, but I turned it off because I thought it was really badly paced and boring. So that was that, and I'm okay with it. Or who knows, maybe they saw my very strange track record of winning game tournaments and got scared. There were a bunch of snacks and alcoholic beverages in the winter area, and I gotta say, the alcoholic squid drinks were probably the worst things I've ever tasted. It was astonishing how bad they were. Over a year later, and I can still imagine it. I don't even know what ingredient could do that to a drink. Anyway, after I submitted my form, I half expected to never hear anything about it ever again. But to my surprise, Netflix reached out to interview me about potentially being a contestant on the show. In fact, I was forwarded to the next round of interviews 3 times to completely break any potential rules of confidentiality. Unfortunately, I didn't get the 45.6 billion money prize like in the show, but along with the t-shirt, they did give me a special form to fill out that would give me priority application for Netflix's actual Squid Game reality show, Squid Game: The Challenge, Season 2. I looked at the form and thought, you know, we'll just see what happens. Filled it out and was able to bring my friends back to the VIP room with me because winning isn't fun unless you do it with your friends. That's what Squid Game taught me. We circled each other, both our spoon-holding arms stretched out as far as they could go. He swung at my egg a couple times and I managed to dodge, but I couldn't win this thing if I didn't go on the offense. Wait, what if I just... I won the silly little Netflix Squid Game pop-up. The front man came out and escorted me to the VIP area where he gave me a plastic animal mask, like in Squid Game. And we took awesome photos together, and I got an awesome t-shirt that said winner. And I didn't know it at the time, but as this was happening, the staff pretended to shoot all the losers with fake gun sounds. Eventually, there were just 3 people left. The crowd started yelling, "Get the girl's still in!" And the 2 guys started walking towards me. But then my personal peanut gallery chimed in with, hey, they're ganging up on the girl! Boo, shame, boo. And that flustered them enough to back away again. Apparently, the power of teamwork and fear of misogyny can persevere through anything. Suddenly, an egg hit the floor. It was just me and non-woman hating guy number 2. The exact 1v1 I was trying to create. I was somehow the only one in our group moving on to the final round. Me and the other 4 winners of red light, green light were brought into Squid Game. And everyone else was there too, watching from behind a little rope. Jaden, Squid Game is so rough and tough. How did you fare against the 4 other dudes that made it to the end? In real Squid Game, the guy got stabbed. Did you get stabbed? You're probably wondering. And oh dear viewer, no, I did not get stabbed. In fact, I didn't get hurt at all because Netflix didn't want to deal with paperwork. They all lunged forward, and as red light was called for the final time, I watched as Joe tripped and crashed into them, causing every person left to topple to the floor. Their wristbands deemed them eliminated. As Joe was walking past me to the dead area, I asked what happened, to which he said, "I got him." Joe had intentionally sacrificed himself to bump those people because they were the couple that ganged up on him during marbles. He had finally gotten his revenge. All the other team's boats were sunk, and the remaining 15 or so people were led into the semi-final game. It was obvious as soon as we saw her, we were finally playing the classic red light, green light. It was decorated like the show, the doll was there, but there were giant gift boxes scattered around the room to act as obstacles, because when you think about it, red light, green light isn't high stakes when staff can't actually shoot the contestants. Like, something had to be added to spice it up a bit. For some reason though, the staff member on our side was, we can call it, extremely helpful. At first he was saying general tips, like, so if they still have a 4-tile boat, let's check all the areas that could fit that. You know, saying vague hints to help us out a bit. But by the end of it, he was just straight up telling us, if I were you guys, I would shoot right here. Like, this guy wanted us to win, and win fast, so either he had some kind of bet going on with the other staff members, or dude just had places to be. When we got back together with Joe and Jax, we explained how we got super lucky to be paired up with an actual surgeon that literally soloed the whole thing, and Joe was like, wait, that guy was a surgeon? And Jacob and I had to shake our heads and say, no, Joe, she was a surgeon. Damn it. Now that we were entering the 4th challenge, it was time to get serious. This was the first game where people would start getting eliminated for realsies. But not realsies.